The appointment of Subramanyam Jaishankar, a seasoned diplomat with decades of experience, as India's External Affairs Minister in 2019, marked a significant departure from established norms. It broke with tradition because he was a career diplomat, a distinguished member of the Indian Foreign Service, not a politician groomed in the rough and tumble of electoral politics. For decades, this crucial role, responsible for shaping India's global image and relationships, was almost exclusively reserved for political veterans, individuals with extensive experience in the political arena. But Jaishankar brought something different to the table: deep expertise and nuanced understanding of international relations, cultivated over a lifetime dedicated to the Indian Foreign Service. His rise signaled a shift. India, facing an increasingly complex and interconnected world, wanted a foreign policy led by a seasoned practitioner, someone who understood the intricacies of diplomacy, not just a politician. Jaishankar's background, as the son of the eminent strategic thinker K. Subramanyam, a man known for his sharp intellect and insightful analysis of global affairs, and a veteran of key diplomatic postings in strategically important capitals like Moscow, Tokyo, and Beijing, gave him both the intellectual depth to understand the underlying forces shaping global events and the hands-on experience to navigate the complex world of international negotiations. As Foreign Secretary, the top bureaucrat in the Ministry of External Affairs, he gained an insider's view of the inner workings of Indian diplomacy, meticulously preparing him for the responsibilities and challenges of the top job. Upon taking office, Jaishankar's communication style was notably direct, articulate, and clear, making the often opaque world of foreign policy more accessible and understandable to ordinary Indian citizens. He skillfully explained the rationale and strategic thinking behind India's global actions and diplomatic initiatives, connecting complex diplomatic maneuvers to tangible national interests and the overall public welfare of the Indian people. His appointment came at a particularly critical time, a period marked by significant global upheaval and uncertainty, including the resurgence of assertive nationalism in various parts of the world, the intensifying strategic rivalry between the United States and China, and a fundamental, ongoing shift in the global order that had been in place for decades. In this turbulent environment, India needed a steady and experienced hand, a strategic thinker capable of navigating these complex and often dangerous changes. Jaishankar's elevation to the position of External Affairs Minister was therefore a strategic move by the Indian government, firmly placing foreign policy at the very center of India's national advancement and its aspirations to become a leading global power. Under Jaishankar, Indian foreign policy became more confident and goal-driven, aiming to transform India from a balancing power to a leading power. The focus shifted to strategic autonomy, building flexible, issue-based partnerships without rigid alliances. India now works with the US on Indo-Pacific security, Russia on defense, and Europe on technology, maximizing options in a multipolar world. Jaishankar's approach is assertive but pragmatic, setting clear red lines and defending India's interests unapologetically. Every diplomatic move is evaluated for its impact on India's economic growth and technological progress. Foreign policy is now seen as a tool for national development, directly linked to the aspirations of Indian citizens. Strategic autonomy defines the Jaishankar era, a foreign policy doctrine emphasizing independence and the freedom to make decisions based on national interest. India refuses to pick sides in a fractured world, navigating a complex geopolitical landscape with pragmatism. Instead, India engages all major powers, fostering bilateral and multilateral relationships that enhance its influence and promote its strategic objectives. This proactive approach allows India to maintain open lines of communication and cooperation across the board. India is a key player in both the Quad with the US, Japan, Australia, strengthening cooperation on issues ranging from maritime security to technology, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization with China, Russia, engaging in regional security and economic initiatives. India is adept at using each forum to advance specific goals, carefully calibrating its engagement to maximize benefits and minimize risks. The Ukraine crisis tested this doctrine, forcing India to balance its relationships with Russia and the West. India maintained ties with Russia, prioritizing its own energy security and economic needs over external pressure, while also advocating for peace and diplomacy. Jaishankar's message was clear. India's foreign policy decisions are driven by its own assessment of its national interests. India will define its own interests, not follow others' expectations, asserting its sovereignty and independence on the global stage. This approach positions India as an active shaper of its destiny, not a passive player, contributing to global norms and institutions while safeguarding its own strategic space. It requires constant balancing and recalibration, adapting to evolving geopolitical realities and emerging challenges. But under Jaishankar, India has grown more confident in this complex diplomatic dance, projecting its influence with greater assurance and skill. India is now seen as an indispensable player in the global power maze, a key voice in shaping the future of international relations. India's relationship with China represents perhaps its most complex and demanding foreign policy challenge. It's a relationship steeped in history, marked by periods of both cooperation and conflict, and one that continues to evolve in the face of shifting geopolitical realities and external affairs. Minister S. Jaishankar's approach to navigating this intricate dynamic has been tested like never before, requiring a delicate balance of firmness and pragmatism. The Galwan Valley clashes of 2020, a watershed moment in the relationship, abruptly ended decades of carefully compartmentalizing economic ties from long-standing border disputes, forcing a fundamental reassessment of India's approach. In a clear articulation of India's changed stance, Jaishankar declared that peace and tranquility on the border is now an essential prerequisite for the normalization of relations. No more business as usual, he asserted, signaling a departure from previous approaches. India responded with a significant military buildup along the line of actual control, coupled with a series of economic measures targeting Chinese interests and investments within India. Simultaneously, India intensified its global diplomatic outreach, engaging with key partners to build support and coordinate strategies. The underlying message was clear. India will not be coerced or intimidated, and going forward, every aspect of the bilateral relationship would now be inextricably linked to the state of stability and peace along the disputed border. Despite the heightened tensions and ongoing confrontation, Jaishankar has strategically kept communication channels open with his Chinese counterparts, persistently pursuing disengagement talks at various levels, all while resolutely holding firm on India's core position and territorial integrity. The complex China conundrum remains stubbornly unresolved, demanding a comprehensive and long-term strategy encompassing deterrence, proactive defense preparedness, strategic competition across multiple domains, and sustained, nuanced dialogue. Jaishankar's tenure, therefore, marks a significant shift in India's approach, moving away from an era of perhaps overly optimistic cooperation towards a more realistic and demonstrably firm management of relations with a powerful and increasingly assertive neighbor. India's China policy, under his leadership, is now characterized by a greater degree of clarity, strategic resolve, and a willingness to stand its ground. The challenge is undoubtedly ongoing and multifaceted, but the strategic shift in India's approach is unmistakable and likely to shape the relationship for years to come. Under Jaishankar, India-US ties have deepened into a comprehensive strategic partnership, driven by shared democratic values and concerns about China. Jaishankar's experience as ambassador to Washington helped him expand cooperation in defense, technology, and trade. The Quad has become a key platform for Indo-Pacific collaboration, balancing China's influence without compromising India's autonomy. Defense ties have grown, with foundational agreements enabling joint exercises and technology sharing. India leverages US partnership to modernize its military, not to become a junior ally. Trade and policy differences remain, but Jaishankar manages them pragmatically, ensuring the relationship stays resilient. He insists on mutual respect and equality, making the partnership sustainable. This US-India convergence is central to India's global ambitions. Jaishankar's neighborhood-first policy is more proactive and results-oriented than ever. India has provided swift aid to neighbors in crisis, like Sri Lanka, and invested in infrastructure across South Asia. The goal: build trust and position India as the region's reliable partner, not a hegemon. Connectivity projects, roads, railways and waterways, aim to integrate the region economically, with India as the hub. Challenges remain: political instability, China's growing influence, and complex ties with Pakistan and Myanmar. Jaishankar's answer is a sustainable, partnership-based development model, not debt traps. The neighborhood policy is a continuous, high-stakes effort requiring patience and strategic clarity. India's security and prosperity depend on a stable, connected periphery. The COVID-19 pandemic allowed India to showcase its soft power through the Vaccine Maitri initiative. While many nations hoarded vaccines, India exported millions, supporting countries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. This humanitarian effort built immense goodwill and reinforced India's image as the pharmacy of the world. Vaccine Maitri strengthened bilateral ties and positioned India as a first responder in global health crises. Even when domestic needs forced a pause, the initiative's impact endured. Jaishankar's vision used India's strengths for global good, serving both humanitarian and strategic interests. The goodwill generated by Vaccine Maitri advanced India's foreign policy more than years of traditional diplomacy. It was a defining example of effective soft power under Jaishankar. Jaishankar has given India a more confident, proactive voice on the world stage. He's moved Indian diplomacy from defensive to agenda-setting, insisting India lead global conversations. In multilateral forums, Jaishankar champions India's interests and calls for reform of outdated institutions like the UN Security Council. His direct communication style, through media, speeches, and social platforms, counters misinformation and projects India's perspective globally. India now drives initiatives like the International Solar Alliance, showing thought leadership and practical action. These efforts position India as a rule-maker, not just a rule-taker. Jaishankar's approach ensures India's voice is not only heard, but respected. The world now sees India as a confident, constructive global player. Jaishankar's tenure marks a pivotal chapter in Indian foreign policy, infusing it with purpose and self-assurance. He shifted India from cautious moralism to assertive, interest-driven realism, anchored in strategic autonomy. His legacy includes dehyphenated relationships, a firmer China policy, and connecting diplomacy to domestic development. Challenges remain: managing China, balancing US and Russia ties, and countering external influence in the neighborhood. Jaishankar has equipped India with a new diplomatic toolkit and mindset for the 21st century. The foundation is set for a nimble, confident foreign policy aligned with national aspirations. The task ahead is to build on this framework and adapt to a changing world. India's journey to becoming a true leading power has begun, with Jaishankar's vision lighting the way.